Okay, rail fans, and welcome to another Train Guy stream. And this evening, going back to one of the very old routes, way back where it all started. For many of us, probably one of the first routes that we drove in this game. So, I'm going to do a quick run on the Great Western with the Class 43, and then just to mix it up a little bit, we'll be going back to something a bit older and a bit rattlier on the Trans-Penine. So let's just get cracking straight on with this. You'll see my scores looking very bereft there. I'm actually broadcasting from my main account unusually, and I accidentally reset all my stats back at the start of June. That's how long it's been since I've played any Great Western. So, let's wait for a loading screen. Okay, so starting under a red signal. So first thing I'm going to do is pop the DRA on and switch on the AWS and the DSD. Set the train lights and make sure there's some supply going to the coaches. Don't really need the gauge dimmer on, but we'll give it a crack anyway for this. There's the AWS test program run. So it's a straight run to London, but we are following a stopping service, so probably get signals at some point. Just need to wait now for the signal ahead to clear. There we go. Let's pop the DRA off. So 40 miles an hour leaving Reading, and we're leaving under a caution, so we won't be going too quickly. Although I expect the service ahead to pull ahead quite quickly, and the signals should start to clear fairly fast. They are quite close together around here as well, so it's already gone to double yellow. Which means at worst the next one can only be a full caution. So we can quite comfortably run up to about 30-40. Straight up onto the fast up line, so there'll be no mucking about with junctions or switches or things. And we've already got a green ahead of us. The back of the train's cleared the speed limit sign, so we're now up to 60, and in fact just go straight onto the high speed line here. See, they still haven't fixed the black hole of Reading there. The DSD just making sure we're still alive. Fine. Never noticed the gas container there before. straight on to greens. Could see a yellow in the far distance there, but it's cleared as well. Straight on up to full power, I think. Back in the cab so I can see properly down the track. Although even with AWS and the DST, there's not as much going on as there is in a cab where you're using, say, PZD and what happens. It's quite easy to jump in and out of the cameras on this route compared to some. We'll probably catch up to the stop-in service ahead at some point. I can't remember which station it stops at. It does make one stop. Might be Slough. I think I actually did a stream on that service once a long time ago. Yeah, sorry, I'm using a pretty crappy microphone at the moment. My headset snapped recently, not replaced it yet. I'll have a play around with the settings shortly. In fact, I don't really like stopping the stream mid-flow, but we'll just lower the game sound slightly. Oh, I don't remember it being that high. We'll try that. I thought this was lower than that. Right, hopefully that's a little bit better. I just realised that the microphone had disappeared under my collar as well, so apologies for that. Anyway, more importantly, welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining. So there's no need to run flat out at 125 the whole way. You can comfortably run this at 120 and still be on time 9 times out of 10. If we run into some signals further down the line, then I might push it a bit harder. Also mindful of the train that left just in front of us. There's no point catching up to them because then you just run into yellows. very, very slight downhill gradient as well, so you don't really need any power going down here. Just enough power to keep the momentum going. Not sure how much traffic there is about at this time of the day on the route. It is very busy around rush hour times, but I think it might be starting to quieten down. Might see a freight train at some point though. I'm sure there's a goods train running on the line at this time. It's the DSD just checking up on us again. If you don't touch the controls for, I think it's about 35-40 seconds, then the DSD comes on. Now I got an AWS warning there because the signal was still yellow as across the magnet track on the track. However, it changed to green as I was passing it, so no need to do anything else at this point. Probably get a yellow a bit further down though. In fact, let's just pick it up to 125, see if we can catch some signals. So acknowledge the AWS and just begin some gentle braking, bring it down a bit. Even with the brakes full on, it's fairly gentle. It takes you a while to lose all your speed. So still at double yellow, which means the next one can only be a caution. So 60-70 miles an hour is okay at the moment. So just acknowledge that again, and we have a full caution, single yellow. So reduce to about 45, and that should give me 40-45 miles an hour. You should have plenty of time to respond to a signal at this point. And I can see red off in the distance there, so I'm just going to leave the brakes on initial. Might want to give it a little bit more if it doesn't show any sign of changing. So we'll creep forward here. Ideally, that will clear to it will go back to caution before we stop completely. If we really have to, we can halt it in plenty of time though. And this will be for the train that left just ahead of us. It will be stopped at the station just down the line here. I can't remember which one it is. Hey Samson, good to see you, man. Yep, thought we'd revisit one of the old classics. First route a lot of people will have driven in this game. I haven't been down this one for months. So now we just wait the signal. It shouldn't be too long. The train shouldn't be stopped ahead of us for any great length of time. He said. Oh, of course, this had much longer stopping times than some of the more up-to-date routes, I forget. But they never did fix the minute-long stops here. I think it would have meant rewriting the entire timetable, though, to be fair, so... Now, as far as I know, you don't need to set the DRA here, because we're out on the line. That's used mainly in stations where the platform signal is red. Although if anybody knows any better, as always, feel free to correct me. Let's just have a quick check at the map and see where that one is. So it's just leaving the station now, that's fine. We should be underway just in a moment, yeah. So this gives us a little under 20 minutes to reach London. 19 miles in, what, 18 minutes? I shouldn't get any more AWS because we've already passed over the magnet way back where. But keeping in mind that the last one was a caution, the next one could well be red. Yeah, no, Samson, it's just way beyond me, man. I just can't get my head around all those different reds and yellows. I probably could if I really put some time into it, but nah. It works the way that I do it. I find it works for me anyway. So we're not going to exceed 40 until I can see the next signal and I'm absolutely certain it's clear. Should be, it is just at the end of the platform, I think, the next station that we come up to. So I'm getting AWS, so it's not clear whatever it is. I can see some red up in the, I can see lots of reds up in the distance, so we're just going to back it off again. Now I can see the platform signal and also the distance signal has gone green. Okay. Hopefully a clear run all the way to Paddington now. "18 miles, 15 minutes to do it." Oh, I need to remember to try coming up here in a slower train at some point, because I want to see that donkey that I think it was George mentioned on was it Saturday or Sunday's stream. If you missed that one, apparently there is a donkey in somebody's back garden just outside the station at Ivor. Can't remember which one it is, which station that is, to be honest with you. I suspect we'll be going too fast to notice anything like that though as we go through, even if I knew which house to look at. Oh! There's a bit more traffic than I was expecting at this time. I do like this route because there just seems to be a lot of traffic on it all the time. So 15 miles in a straight line rather. It's probably more like 17 or 18 track miles. The stations will start to get closer and closer together as well as we drive into London. Just acknowledge the DSD there. Yes, Samson, it was the 155. Takes some getting used to that with the traction wheel on the desk. It's incredibly good fun though. I love that train. Probably one of my favourite ones in the game. That was definitely £11 well spent. I've probably used that more than any other downloaded train apart from perhaps the Whistler. The old Class 40, which I have absolutely pounded the hell out of. So, quite a lot of bounce and sway going on. That's definitely more pronounced than I remember it being the last time I drove this. The camera's fixed onto the coach here, so it looks like it's bouncing around a bit more than it actually is. But, yeah, it's a nice little effect. I can't remember the names of any of these stations anymore. I used to know some of them. Not that much further to go, and then we'll hit the speed reductions on the way into the city. Should make it fairly comfortably time-wise as well. Well, that's Acton Depot coming up on the left somewhere, so I thought we might have seen a goods train at some point. Is it Acton Yard? Can't remember the name of it. So the church on the right and the sort of tunnely stuff ahead, that's a good landmark for just getting set for the initial speed reduction. Just give it a little bit more to make sure we're under 100. It's just past this set of signals that the actual speed limit comes into force. Overtaking the 166 over there. Signals yellow, double yellow, so it's an advanced caution. We'll just wind the speed down a bit to around 60, depending on what the next signal is doing. Now something just went green up ahead, but that's a signal over on the slow up, so not for us. the fast up still at yellow. And there is another AWS ramp further down here, which is actually warning you, that one there is warning you that there's a massive speed limit change coming up. I believe that one's for, usually it's only found around signals, but it does get used occasionally for approaches to junctions, unguarded level crossings, and sometimes you'll put a temporary one put down if there's trackside works going on or that sort of thing. So there's still double yellows, so we can just keep cruising along around 60. Just bearing in mind that we need to be at 50 in a little under half a mile. Might as well just reduce that now. We're under caution signals anyway, so it also just gives the train ahead a chance to just open up that spacing a little bit. And we're back to greens. Just not far beyond the bend ahead, there's another reduction to, I think it's 40. Yeah, 40, that's you saw the reduced speeds signs going past there. They're a bit difficult to make out, but as long as you know what the next limit is, just seeing the sign itself is enough. And there you can see that row of signs in between the tracks, that's the start of the 40 zone. And the next reduction is 25 as we enter the station itself. So actually a little bit sharpish with the brakes there. Has been a little while. And we just roll it on up to the end of the platform. Nothing too complicated about this one. and we don't need to draw up right alongside. We're still well on platform. Let's get the doors open. Let's wait for that to empty out, and that'll be us done with this run, and then it's on to something a bit noisier, a bit smellier, a bit dirtier. Proper train. Hey Stephen, good to see you, man, welcome. Hopefully this is late enough at night you're not going to get a doing from your boss if you get caught watching this. Improvements on GWE. I think there's a lot more traffic than there used to be. It runs as smooth as a baby's bottom. Frame rate wise, I noticed it used to be really janky on some parts. Didn't really notice that much. I think it's a little quality of life stuff that they've done rather than a radical overhaul of it. But, that was good, I enjoyed that. It's been a long time since I drove one of those. My stats looking horribly devoid. I actually accidentally reset my stats a few months ago. It's far too easy to do in this game. There you go. Not that they really count for very much, let's be honest. That's about the same time as I finish as well. Let's see, what did I say we were going to do next? Yes, Trans-Penine, because we've not done that for a while either. And I got really peed off when they broke the Trans-Penine with that patch ages ago. Happily, it seems to work as it should now. Oh, hang on. Great Western's got journeys. Oh, of course, it's still part of the base package, isn't it? Duh. To the right of the speed level mean on the HUD. I'll need to have a little look at it when I'm back in there again. What I am going to do is I'm going to take a very quick 1 minute comfort break because I've had far too much coffee this afternoon, and then we'll get this show on the road. Shall just be a moment. that's me back. Let's see what's happening. Yeah, Tees Valley. Yeah, not played that for a while actually. I would probably want to drive it again once at least before I did a stream though, because I can't remember anything about it except there's lots of speed limit changes that you really need to know in advance for the, certainly for the heavy trains. So we'll make it a summer's day, a little bit of cloud I think. And we'll take the 45. What will we do? We'll go from Leeds to Manchester. One of those has got, one of those had a bug, one of those early afternoon ones. I wouldn't like to try it for the first time on stream. Prefer to do one I've already done. As you can see, I like going from Manchester to Leeds, but not so much the other way. I wouldn't mind an express. Right, we'll take the 921 Leeds to Manchester Express. That's I have completed it at some point, so it's presumably fairly bug-free. That was the most annoying thing about resetting my stats, is I was actually able to tell by the ones I had not completed which were the ones that were buggy and should probably be avoided. Oh yeah, those 3-parters were really good fun. Took me a while. I wasn't paying enough attention in the tutorial, and for ages I couldn't get them to work properly. I didn't realise you had to switch off the slave controls for the second locomotive. Hey Spurs Reading, welcome mate, good to see you. I'm very well, thank you, hope you are as well. We're just let me get my bearings. I think the doors are on the right hand side here. Do a quick setup while we wait for the passengers to load. It's been a while for this one as well. I'm trying to remember where everything is. And there's not much point in turning on the AWS because it's not fitted to the route. Got 40 seconds to go, but I'm just going to lock the doors up now. And yeah, I think we'll just leave the air brakes. You can run the passenger coaches in vacuum or air brakes, either or. Now, which symbol next to the speed gauge was somebody asking about? Because there's a couple of things around that gauge. The one on the left's just the ammeter. The ones on the right are just vague approximations of the brake gauges. To the right of the 0 is... Oh, that's just telling you what brake mode you have selected. The little lightning flash is the straight brake, and the lever with the circular mount is the driver's brake. Because the text only stays on screen for a few moments, you see. So you can tell at a glance what brake mode you have in. There are a couple of other ones you'll see. A white background with a black lightning flash is a dynamic brake on an American train. need to concentrate just a little bit coming out here because I have no idea. I can't remember what the signal states are going to be. I know that there are one or two where you might have to stop for a little bit on the bottom of the Miles Platting Hill. Yeah, no problem, man. It's something that Dovetail are absolutely crap at, or they were. I've not looked at the manuals since 2020 release, but they were absolutely crap at telling you all these things, unless you went to Steam and downloaded the PC manuals. It was often the only way to get a lot of this. Should probably be paying attention up front rather than behind. Let's stick the head out. Right, so we've got clear signals now, so just get around this tight turn and then we can boot it up. Now see, I'm not used to driving the train the other direction. That I just assumed I was leaving Manchester when I started blathering about the Miles Platting Hill. So once again, duh. Actually, I forgot to lower my seat so I can see out the window properly. I always lower the other one as well because I think it looks kind of silly if you go to the outside view and suddenly one driver's sitting much higher than the other. I can see out the side window a little better now. Clear signal with the semaphore on top, just informing us we're going up the line to the left there. being very careful not to over rev it in case we short the whole thing out. Alright Samson, thanks for joining, man, and enjoy yourself, and we'll catch you another time. I do like that full power sort of climb out from Leeds, even if I can barely hear myself over the sound of the thing. So up ahead, the next main signal, 1.5 miles away, but there is a distant signal just up around this bend somewhere. Or there should be anyway. Could have sworn there was a distant signal down there somewhere. Unless I wasn't paying attention and already went steaming past it. That's an outside possibility. So the one downside to this route, at least from the streaming point of view, is maybe the amount of time we spend inside tunnels. Happily though, it's not got the bug that you sometimes get on Rursig where the sound cuts out for the length of it. destroys your night vision, even though it's not night time, but it makes it much more difficult in real life to see out the cab when you've got the light on, so they wouldn't do this. And if I'm driving off stream, I tend not to switch it on the way through here. And you get that sort of janky effect around the edges of the windows a lot in here, so. End of the tunnel coming up, so I'm going to just flick the lights back out again. Oh, it echoes inside the tunnels now, that's cool. That's new. I like that. And the straight brake on its own should be enough just to regulate the speed on this hill. Get rid of that extra 10 miles an hour we're carrying at the moment for the upcoming change, and I think we go more or less straight into a junction after that, so the main's clear, the distant is clear, we're into the stretch that's covered by the old semaphores now. I do like the mixed signalling that we've got on this route, with a little bit more brakes I think. This, I think this is Dewsbury around the corner. So the limit does go back up to 60 now, but we go almost straight away into another fairly slow-ish. So in that 55 is followed immediately by a reduction to about 45, I think, if I remember rightly. As we go across a junction and rejoin or not rejoin, but join a different stretch of line. Can't even remember the name of the junction, man. It's shocking. I should remember these things. I've driven them often enough with the route map open next to me. In fact, you can, if you want, to just use the straight brakes again down here. So yeah, it's a 45 ahead. And then just let the rear of the train clear the point so we can pick it back up. Freight trains will go over onto the goods lines over on the left there, and you need to remember it's 20 miles an hour crossing those points. But if you leave it until you see the speed limit thing appear in the HUD, it's way too late. And from my own experience, it's easier than you would think to get an 1800 ton train to jump rails there. Semaphore signals to the most modern type we find in UK lines, the 4-aspect electric signals. Mixes it up a little bit. And again, just getting slightly ahead of the train here because we're going to be going down a steep hill and then up one. So you need a little cushion just for the speed increase. And if you catch it just properly, you won't lose much time and you won't overspeed either. So watch this, I'll probably screw it up totally. So this is where our line actually goes underneath the main line and then pops out the other side. Didn't lose too much there. Hey Floyd Roots, yeah man, it's I took a wee holiday for a while, but back in business now. That platform there is an absolute pain in the ass to get right in the 101 just because of the gradient that it's on. I absolutely detest that station. Can't even remember the name of it, but I know I always get it wrong. Begin setting up for the approach to Huddersfield. You can actually leave it fairly late because you're on an uphill, fairly steep uphill by UK standards. So gravity will do some of the braking for you. Just bearing in mind that we go straight from the 48 into a 15 for the station itself. And then we just crawl into Huddersfield. Just remember, we're still on a slight uphill gradient, so just a little bit of power to stop us from slowing down too much. And we'll take more or less the full length of the platform. There we go. So you don't need to arrive bang on 47, as long as you arrive within the minute of the 47th minute, you're fine. In fact, you can be 3 or 4 minutes late, it'll still count it as on time, but we're basically right on time and just ready to lock up. A very quick stop. why not? Let's have a little run by. Like a run by. I feel like the lighting's not quite right there, but no worries. I didn't write it. Flick the cab light on. Cab light switch is actually quite easy to find in the dark here as well. It's just right above your head. I think if you line the icon up with the... What is it you line it up with again? I used to know this one. Yeah, if you line it up with the horn, you'll be able to find that in the dark if you don't have a keyboard. If you do, just press the letter L. Yeah, they never have. Apparently, it's an Unreal issue as opposed to a train sim issue, but then they've said that about quite a lot of things that they then went on to fix, so who knows. To be honest, I don't really find things like that quite bad enough to break the game for me. Hi LeShark, welcome. Welcome to the stream. Straight run to Manchester Victoria now, and it's a fairly quick one. We'll be running at line speed for most of it. This particular locomotive has no problems with these things. Back in the cab in time to see the signals. Let's just race the train slightly. I do a lot of tapping around at the start as well sometimes, to be honest, I've never even bothered to find out how the medal system works. I just want to drive trains. I don't really care if I'm scoring points or not. Although I seem to accidentally have quite a lot of gold ones somewhere or other. God knows how, considering how often I seem to wind up at a dead halt on the line somewhere. Yeah, probably is. Mountain rescue sim. Even I feel that might be one too far. There are some absolutely dreadful, quote, simulator, unquote, on PSN. That fire engine, fire brigade one is particularly wank, by the way. Do not buy. Yeah. Crap with a capital shite. Quite right. So, oh, wasn't paying much attention. Good job that signal was green, because I've not really been paying attention to them. So 2.5 miles more or less to the next main, so that there should be a distance of some sort in between us and that. Oh, I haven't had an on-stream spad in a while. Can't actually remember the last one I had on stream. I can remember the last one I had in off stream. It was the weird new signalling arrangement coming out of Hagen, which are coming out on the side with the, what can I call it, the non-visual signal. There's the distance there on the left. All clear, so nothing to worry about. Yes, Lashak, I have got the new route. There's a couple of videos on it. I've done at least one of everything. Up and down the S-Bahn a couple of times. A bit of freight. And if you have main Spessart ban, you can also use your 146 on there. If you bought the 183, is it, or the 182 for rapid transit, that's also available to use. And if you got the 155 for rear sig, you can use that as well. So yeah, I'm quite enjoying that new route. Highly recommend it. It does seem like quite a short one to begin with, but when you realise that it's actually 2 parallel tracks for a lot of the way, the overall mileage is it's about the same as main Spessart, I would say. Maybe a teeny bit less. It would be quite interesting if they maybe did maybe not as a full DLC, but gave us the option to run this in its more up-to-date form with all the safeties and things. A lot of it looks exactly the same as well these days. That would be kind of cool, AWS and all that kind of stuff up here. Of course, that wasn't put on this line until the late 80s, early 90s, so... Yeah, I know what you mean, man, about the nostalgia thing. I mean, these I grew up very close to the East Coast main line, and I can remember in the early and mid '80s seeing trains like this on a daily basis. Love it. Yeah, we pop the lights on because the standard's trying to list quite a long one. There's that janky tunnel shit going on around the windows again. Always seems to happen in the tunnels for some reason. Not really game breaking, but mildly annoying. What I would really like to see at some point is maybe a late 80s, 90s route, get the 43 painted up in its own blue and yellow, or maybe the black and white intercity livery. Because let's face it, I mean the 43 is always going to look awesome, but it's never going to look as good as it did in BR Blue. Bloody fix it then. I wonder if a lot of these things are things that would be ironed. I see this being a game that they're going to support for a long time. They'll maybe move it over to the PS5 or whatever Microsoft come up with next. Backwards compatibility should be quite easy to do that and support the old routes. You might find that a lot of these issues get fixed when they've got more processing power. Yeah, the motion blur is really, it's a lot better than it used to be, that's for sure. Oh shit. Change coming up. Didn't notice the end of the tunnel is fast approaching. I think the motion blur, more than the smoke effects, has probably been what's stopped them putting steam engines out as well. Because the wheels are obviously far more exposed and visually far more obvious if you're on any of the exterior cameras, and I imagine it would look, imagine trying to do, you know, big spoked wheels and conrods and all that kind of stuff when you've got that blur going on. It'd be horrible. So I'm all in favour of them not bothering until they can actually make it all look nice and blue and yellow will always be my livery, if you know what I mean. That's the one that I'm always going to automatically think. I'm going to see any train on the UK main line, and I'll always think, yeah, you'd look better in BR Blue. Still do think that about every single train on the network. Yeah, exactly, the Shark. It's not as if it's a completely broken and unusable product. And I'm willing to give a developer who is still very much learning the platform a bit of slack. I mean, if this was a billion-dollar company putting out their 15th annual iteration of the game, I'd be pretty pissed, but when it's a small developer whose turnover is in the very, 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 very low millions, and that's turnover, not their profit, then I find it a lot easier to be forgiving.
Just keeping an eye on the speed coming down the hill. One reason I do prefer running the passenger coaches with the air brakes rather than the vacuum brakes is simply it's much easier if you want to use them to manage your speed. You've got the vacuum brakes and you're probably going to be using mostly the straight brake for the speed control stuff, but passenger brake you've got the option if they're set to air. I'm frightened of Flight Simulator, in as much as back in the FS 2004 FS10 days I spent obscene amounts of money on add-ons, on charts, on God knows what else, airports, planes, weather programs, random scenery meshes. Oh dear Lord. And then one day I realised I'd spent all my money on add-ons for the simulator. I couldn't afford to upgrade my computer anymore. And it very slowly, I went from being a VATSIM guy to a radar contact 4 guy to a fucking broken guy. To be fair, it was always a fairly expensive thing to really throw yourself into. For the same reason we pay 20 quid a throw, 25 quid a throw for add-ons for this, I guess. I mean, it's there's a market for it, but comparatively niche one. Yeah, definitely. I've got one eye on that, but I don't know if I can afford to get back into it. So, 15-mile-an-hour limit coming up a couple of miles down the track. That's for Staley Bridge. It's quite a steep downhill section that we're on, so I'll be a little bit cautious, brake a little bit earlier than maybe would. And if this was a freight train, it would already be too late. probably be a bit more aggressive with it than I'm being, but it's been a while since I've been down here. Ah, thank you very much, the Shark. Appreciate that. I'm not very social media savvy, it has to be said. I don't really use anything apart from streaming this. But thank you very much. I do appreciate that. And I'm way late with the brakes. Passenger comfort be damned. We'll get you there, but we didn't say how comfortably. Oh, thank you, LeShark. It's awfully nice. It's yeah. I'm not aiming to make. I'm not doing this to try and make any money or to get a following. I started doing it because I was bored one day, really, and turns out some people, for some bizarre reason, like listening to me talk to myself while I play with trains. So yeah, it's sometimes swear a bit. Sometimes don't necessarily just talk about trains. It's all good. So I kind of have to just crawl through here, and it is on a slight downhill, so the straight brake comes into its own on this little section. Do love a bit of Elite Dangerous. Had it on the Amstrad myself. Never get away with the talking to myself. Sometimes it's the only way to get a sensible answer, man. The day I learned that was the day I stopped being ashamed of it. But yeah, I love a bit the old Elite I do. That's one of my, when I was a lad, things that I always, when you get, you know, my son, for instance, my two sons, but my eldest son especially, seriously into his games. And he'll complain, oh, day one patch. Like, oh, when I were a lad, I remember having to post my Elite tape to London and wait a month and a half for a replacement because they shipped the CPC version with a bug. Complain to me about your day one patch. Bah! Get out my garden. Just let the back end of the train clear the points there, and then we can power our way to Manchester, Vic. Yeah, absolutely, the Shark. Stephen, what the Shark's saying there, that's exactly what I found as well. First time I did it, I just thought, oh, what am I doing? This is just bizarre. But then one day you're doing it, and suddenly you realise there's a couple of people chatting away to you, and you think, yeah, this is all right. Can do this. And in fact, I probably wouldn't play the game as much as I do if I wasn't sometimes just doing it, chilling out on here with you guys, if I'm being honest. I mean, I do play a lot of it offline, but that's mostly so that I look like I know what I'm doing when I do it on stream. It doesn't always work out that way, but... I've been to Sagi. twice. I went to see Voyager 1 as well. Now that was a hell of a find. Kind of cool though. It actually plays the message on the golden record to you when you get close to it. It's awesome. I think I might still have a video clip of it on a hard drive somewhere. Right, we're into semaphore signal country now, so these are probably the most confusing bits of the route when you're still learning the signals and things. Yeah, I remember that actually, because you were one of the first people that regularly sort of came on and had a blether when I was doing this. But I was doing them at all sorts of funny times originally. I actually started doing it as much as anything else as a way to keep myself sane, because I hadn't been very well for a while. Nothing particularly serious. I'm not going to get all, oh, woe is me, but I had a lot of time on my hands and a lot of thumb twiddling going on. And this was one of the things that I started doing to get past that. But I think the first sort of small break I took was probably around the time I'd have a wee bit of a wee hospital visit was required, and I think I took a couple of weeks out from streaming around then. But I don't think it was nearly as long as my recent huff that I've had at Dovetail for the mess they made of those patches. That just put me right off for a while, I'm afraid. But it's all good, they've redeemed themselves. Yeah, Floydrix, I remember doing basically doing astral navigation by eyesight alone. There was a video I found on YouTube that basically told you exactly how to do it, and I remember following that to the letter, and it still took me about 2 hours when I got to where it was supposed to be to find the damn thing. Ah, that's pretty shit to hear, Shark. I've been in that boat myself, but good that you're back on your feet again, man. That's I remember how good that felt as well. I've just realised I haven't seen a signal board for probably the last 3 or 4 miles. This could all end rather badly. This is around the blind corner. Oh, 26 years. Yeah, that would really be a tough one. I guess I was kind of lucky in that I fucking hated my employer that I was working for at the time. concentrating a little bit on the track for a moment. Yeah, 26 years, man, that's a long, long time, but honestly, 6 months from now, you'll have slotted right in, you'll feel right at home where you are, I'm sure. That was certainly my experience when I moved on to something new. A little bit quick over the junction there, but happily in 1983 the trains didn't spy on the drivers the way they do now. No, I wasn't particularly prepared for my first Sagi run either. It took me weeks. And in fact, if I remember rightly, I blew my ship out and I blew my ship up in the suicide on the way back to the bubble. Second time I went out, I did it properly. Even made the return trip. Down to 20 and plenty of time. Very slight uphill slope, so just a wee bit of power to stop us from slowing down too far. And then you have to be careful because you go over the brow of the hill and then it's pretty easy to lose it on the way down into Manchester. More so in the freight trains probably than in this, but yeah, well, I did my out and back trip just after they did the big exploration update. It was at the end of last year or the beginning of this year. So everything was a fresh discovery. I made like a 9-figure sum when I came back and turned in all that data as well. That was when they first put all the life forms, like all the organic stuff in as well. That was awesome. Right, so the straight brake will save us on this first bit of the hill, but once we get past these gantries, it's a pretty steep descent. All right, the Shark. Good to see you again, man. Thanks for joining. Thanks for the shout as well, man. And we'll see you again soon. Down here, but I'm always reluctant to do it because getting the bugger slowed at the bottom is never always the easiest thing. We've got green, so just let the power out now, let it coast a bit. I think even under light braking it will still accelerate down here now at this point. Oh no, this one catches it. Certainly the freight trains in fact, I've had a freight train under full braking that I couldn't slow down because I let it run too fast. So it was one of the big 1800 ton jobbies. I said 1800 ton jobby. wonder why people think I'm childish sometimes. Right, so about 500 yards. Will we lose it? Yeah, probably. I always underestimate the brakes on this for some reason, the passenger ones. I think that one bad experience with a freight train kind of frightened me about this hill a bit. Let's see if we can hold it on the straight brake. Should manage okay now. Probably going to be a couple of minutes late actually by the time we get it in. That's just because I was didn't drive the second half of that run particularly efficiently. But all good. I think that's actually just waiting for us to pull in and then it goes. I think you sometimes hear like the sirens and stuff in the background as well. Now that one's ever signaling, it's not the one at the end of the platform. Just make sure we're on the plenty room. Yeah, it is quite a tight platform that, I remember. Well, it doesn't matter too much if the parcel van, the last door or so is hanging over, because there shouldn't be anybody passengers using it anyway. I was kind of hoping that class 40 would move off, but it didn't. Alright, I still have no idea really how the scoring system works. It seems to be a fairly arbitrary number, to be honest. I got like 12,000 points for doing a 25-minute trip along the S-Bahn the other day, so yeah, who knows. I like having a graph to look at the end, though. Who doesn't enjoy a good graph? Okay, so given the thing's propensity for crashing after 2 runs anyway, and we're more or less bang on 10, so that's probably a good time to wrap this one up. So that was just a little bit of messing about on an old favourite and one of the new standard routes. Because of course you now get Trans-Penine as part of the base package. Quite a good choice. Quite a strong base package now actually, I think. Long Island, well, it's better than Northeast Corridor, and I guess they had to put something American in there. But, aye. So, I'm going to quit that there because I have to get up fairly early in the morning, and I dare say we'll be back on some point in the next few days, if not certainly at the weekend. So, good night one and all. Thank you very much for joining. Always enjoy having a wee chat with you guys while I'm doing this. And we'll see you next time, hopefully. Good night.